So in our midst, we have one of our capstone participants who will be here to present our project. Her name is Aderonke Abdul, and she's a storyteller, documentary producer, and researcher who uses narrative as a tool for resistance, memory, and healing. Her work sits at the intersection of African feminist storytelling, maternal health research, and creative protest, exploring silence, grief, migration, and spiritual trauma, especially as they shape the experiences of African women. So she'll be coming up now. A round of applause for her, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And so far, I have picked up a few things, especially on indigenous knowledge, as I really work on that area, and knowing that a lot of infringement and copyright violations can actually be made from hearing folk tales that you know from childhood. It's actually very enlightening. Thank you for the sessions. So I will reintroduce myself. Hello, my name is Aderonke Abdul. I'm a storytelling strategist and creative researcher with a specialization in feminist storytelling and maternal health research. I work at the intersection of literature, history, and advocacy, developing projects that highlight underrepresented female voices, reframe African heritage, and foster knowledge equity through workshops, courses, and multimedia storytelling. Today, I will be walking you through the why and how of my first open course titled Introduction to Oral and Digital Storytelling for Multilingual Literacy and Creative Expression. A course funded with the support of a capstone project mini grant from Free Knowledge Africa. So, if I ask you, what 3 movies scared you as a child, what would they be? If you can think of 3 movies as a child that scared you. For me, I would say, I would rank them from the lowest to the highest, 3. I would say A Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that movie. Second, I would say Captives of the Mighty, one of the unforgettable Mount Zion films. And third, I would say Kotouai, because I can still hear that Kotouai drums in my ears, even sometimes at night, and I'm like, okay. Now, the third film was foreign. Sorry, I went a bit too far. Now, the third film was foreign, worlds apart from the second, yet somehow all 3 felt connected, and Kotouai sealed that connection. Captives of the Mighty showed us the struggles between Christianity and traditional beliefs. Kotouai revealed what lies beyond religion, the mysteries that live in the spaces we don't fully understand. And A Nightmare on Elm Street reminded us that whether you believe it or not, the unseen has its own power. I would have showed you the posters of the movies, but I don't know if I can freely use them. Together, these stories mirrored our society, how we navigate the known and the unknown, faith, fear, and the spiritual and the real. They didn't just mirror society, they showed us our origins. They taught us how to act, what to look out for, and the principles to hold on to. But over the years, we stopped looking inward. We stopped asking the deep, uncomfortable questions that once birthed those unforgettable films. Stories that dared to wrestle what it means to live with cultural identity. And that's what my project is about. Reclaiming the art of storytelling as a bridge between the oral and the digital, between memory and modernity, between language and identity. Now like every good talk, I'll begin with a story. Once upon a time, there were 2 brothers. They went into a sacred forest to find a crown that would decide who was worthy to rule. The younger brother found it first, but instead of hiding it, he ran to share the news with his elder brother. And the elder brother, consumed by envy, struck him down and killed him. He returned home with the crown, and people rejoiced. But at night, the crown grew heavy on his head. He could still hear the brother's voice whisper, "Egbomi, I have found the crown." Now, this story is one of many stories that have shaped our childhoods, stories that we grew up with, not as entertainment, but as moral compass. That leadership without character is a crown that burns. You might be thinking, oh, what a beautiful story. But what does this have to do with digital storytelling or multilingual literacy? Everything. I tell you, it has to do with everything. Because our stories, oral, written, and now digital, are the architecture of our identity. They are how we transmit wisdom, language, and belonging. When I was a child, my mother would tell us stories under the glow of the moonlight. Whenever we flee to the house, we'd go outside on the balcony, and we were bored, she would just tell us stories. And most of the time, she would sing with it. And with this also story I told you, there were songs like where she would sing, Iyama itu aja and tiele, and we would chant and sing the songs along with her. But we don't have such moonlight stories now anymore because everyone is on their digital phone. In school, we were taught using JF Ondujo Alawi. I don't know if anyone knows about the book on Alawi. That is one of my favorite books that shaped what I know about the Yoruba identity now. You will have stories like the tortoise. You will have stories like soups. One of the stories was really extraordinary. They said the tortoise had soup and then his belly kept growing bigger until he busted. A Yoruba book that showed us that language was not just grammar, it was philosophy. Through those stories, it taught us how to pronounce idioms, what proverbs was. It taught us different things that would ordinarily not see in normal modern educations now. And later on, I discovered Tales by Moonlight on NTA. And Nollywood films like Shaworode and Magu, Don't Climb. Each form, oral, written, digital, wasn't replacing the other. It was translating culture from one medium to another. But somehow, where along the line, something got lost. We started to believe that to sound educated, we must forget our mother tongue. To be modern, our stories must sound foreign. That's how we became fluent in global languages and culture, but illiterate in our own cultures. So this project, Introduction to Digital and Oral Storytelling for Multilingual Literacy and Creative Expression, began with one question. How can we reclaim storytelling as a tool for learning, creativity, and cultural survival? In this course, we explore that the three forms of storytelling, oral, written, digital, that oral storytelling is performance. It comes alive, it's rhythmic, it's communal. Written storytelling is preservation, structured, permanent, and reflective. Digital storytelling is expansion, interactive, fast, and borderless. When we teach young people to move between all three, we aren't just teaching language, we are teaching connection to our cultures. Because literacy is not just the ability to read and write. It's the ability to understand meaning in your language and in the language of others, to identify what is written in the gap. Think of a tweet, a TikTok skit, a WhatsApp voice note written and performed by a town crier. What would that sound like? I know many of us might not be familiar with town criers. They always carry this jargon and sound up and down the streets. There might be digital stories now, carrying humor, warning, and memory. But without cultural grounding, they can become noise instead of knowledge. That's why this project teaches not only how to tell stories, but why to tell them responsibly. Because, like one of my Marvel movies, one of my best quotes, because with great power comes great responsibilities. The story wielders are the ones that change the narratives, and the ones that designed the narratives that will follow. Now let's talk about language, the true heartbeat of culture. Language is more than vocabulary. It's a worldview. It's the rhythm through which people see themselves. A Yoruba proverb says, "Owe lesin oro." For me, I can translate it, my own meaning and relation to the language is to understand the message, you must write the culture that carries it. Someone can literally translate this and say that a horse is carrying words. But to me, I know that is between the lines, that to understand the message, you must write the culture that carries it. Also, in this course, we explored how stories shift when told in Yoruba, translated into English, or performed in Pidgin. We realized that translation isn't about replacing words. It's about carrying emotion, rhythm, and memory across borders. Have you ever watched a Yoruba film and they're saying one thing, and the translation is saying another thing entirely? Basically, all they say is it's lost, everything, the meaning is lost in translation. And that is because we are not conscious of our cultural identity and how to translate them into English. When a student translates, like I said, the song and reading from that story I shared, Iyama itu Ajantile, it's almost impossible for you to translate Ajantile because it's Ekiti. And it's not pure Ekiti, it's just a lingua franca from Ekiti. This is one of the songs that we translated into English from the course. And through this, Learners learned empathy, learned to translate history, pain, and justice. Because subtitles is not just about translating what is said. It's about translating the meaning in the conversation. That's what multilingual literacy looks like. The ability to feel across languages. But storytelling now isn't just about preservation. It's about evolution. Today, storytellers, YouTubers, podcasters, spoken word artists are the new town criers. Their gongs are microphones. Their village squares are Instagram reels, TikTok, and YouTube shorts. And through them, we can revive ancient wisdom in modern form. Imagine an Instagram reel reenacting the story of the two brothers I just said. A podcast about a Yoruba proverb on leadership. A YouTube animation of Hausa folktales from children across Africa, like Tales by Moonlight that I grew up with, or we all grew up with. That's what this course teaches, to digitalize oral heritage without erasing its soul. To let the village meet the cloud. Because the goal isn't nostalgia, the goal is continuity. Let's return to these two brothers and the crown that remembers. Every culture has its own version of that story. I'm sure if most of us search how similar these stories are, this particular story I just told you, it also reflects in Korea, in Hebu story, in Japan, in Princess Kaguya, and also in India, in their Mahabharata stories. That's to show you that culture is global. It's not just for one continent, one state, or one group of people. Across continents, stories remind us of one truth. Greed destroys. In almost every Yoruba movie, they teach you that greed destroys. Kindness redeems. And truth never stays buried. But beyond their morals, these stories remind us of something deeper, that storytelling itself is cultural memory. Like I still remember very clearly sitting and chanting these songs with my mother. It's how communities remember who they are and how they heal when they forget. So when we teach storytelling, we're not just teaching art or media, we're teaching identity. We're nurturing empathy, heritage, and connection. Again, because storytelling is not nostalgia, it's strategy. Every retelling, every translation, every adaptation is an act of preservation. And yet, preservation means nothing without access. What good is a story that cannot be shared? What good is knowledge if it remains behind walls? Imagine if this story was under a copyright law and my mother could not share it with me. That question led me to take this work one step further, to design this course as an open education resource, freely available to everyone and placed in the public domain. My experience is that most of the course I really want to take are behind firewalls. That question led me to take this work one step further, to design this course as an open education resource, freely available to everyone and placed in the public domain. This decision wasn't just technical, it was philosophical, because open access is the modern form of oral tradition. It ensures that what is created for the community stays with the community. For long, African knowledge systems have been locked away behind lack of easy access, as the world has mostly moved digital, and in some digital archives without local language translations or versions. Because I have some books I want to read, especially some of them in Korean, Chinese, Japan, and I can't really access them because they're in other languages. Placing this course in the public domain is a way of saying this belongs to us all. It means a teacher in Kano can use a folktale lesson without licensing fees. It means a student in Aba can remix a Yoruba chant into a digital poem. It means a storyteller in Nairobi or Accra can adapt a Nigerian story for YouTube or Swahili. In that way, culture is revolving and is moving around. That's not just access, it's agency. That's knowledge doing what it is meant to do: travel, connect, and transform. Because when knowledge is open, learning becomes circular. Everyone gives and everyone gains. Open access is permission to learn and be original. It returns knowledge to the people who gave birth to it. And storytelling, more than any art, thrives when it is shared. The folktales that raised us was communal, yet they built moral nations. Everyone at certain times had access, and that is precisely why these folktales were passed on to us. So imagine an Africa where education works the same way, where knowledge flows freely between tongues, between elders and children, between classrooms and the cloud. That is what cultural education in the public domain makes possible. A living archive of human experience open to remix, reinterpretation, and renewal. In that space, everyone becomes both the student and the teacher, custodian and creator. Because knowledge, like a story, only lives when it is shared. So as we gather here today in Abuja, to celebrate free and open access to knowledge, I'll leave you with this thought. When we open our stories to the world, we are not giving them away. We are giving them life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aderonke. Wow. So my own take from that is storytelling is a cultural heritage. It's an act of preservation. So I want to hear from you. What did you gain from our showcase? Or do you have anything to say?
Talking about storytelling, that bring my attention back to what happened on 8th of October when the public and community library section of AFLIA met. 8th of October have always been the International Literacy Day. And the theme of this year says promoting digital something something in the era or something like that. But in the public and community library section, their own is something to do with multilingual. And I could remember that in that meeting, there was translating tools such as African Story Weaver. So I want to know if there is any translating tools in Nigeria to translate these stories to our local languages.
We have apps now like ChatGPT and Gemini that if you actually put your indigenous languages in it, mostly the 3 ethnic groups, you actually have your translation. But like I said, the same way it is robotic in English, actually have the real translation. So for projects that you're actually invested in, it's good for you to go to the source and get their original translation.
One of the takeaways I got from the storytelling from Aderonke is we should never shy away from our indigenous languages. But at the same time, I don't know how to put this question direct to her. You see maybe couples, they get married and they don't speak their indigenous language to their children. Even in schools, you see that they say don't speak vernacular, you understand. But all these are the reasons why languages, they go in extinct. So I don't know what other ways, strategies can we use, to ensure that we revive back the culture.
There are many ways we can actually use. Like I grew up in an English not strictly, but we spoke English all the way. My parents rarely spoke Yoruba, even the English, the Ekiti dialect. And only when she tells us stories like this that we do hear the dialect. Even now I can't speak Ekiti. Most of the time, I actually go the extra mile to learn Yoruba courses. Because now I don't really know Yoruba, so I'm actually learning Yoruba. Alongside Yoruba, I'm learning Igbo and Hausa. Because it's very vital in my work. And in documentary, when I did documentary, there was always a barrier between me and the person I interviewed because they spoke Hausa. So I actually wait for the person who's interpreting, whether they actually understand it or not, before he actually gets to the source. So most of the time, if I'm on a project that I don't know the language, I actually carry a fixer or an interpreter. If I'm working on a project, I always have an interpreter with me. It's more resources consuming. In fact, it's more tedious that most people don't really do it. But if I want to do a project, I just want to make sure that I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's to make sure that this language does not perish. And there's someone, I've forgotten what's his name, is it Washiri on YouTube? He actually has this course that he does for 300K. There's a lot of money. But he teaches the grammar, everything about Yoruba, the language, the grammar. He even has his videos. I always watch them because it makes me remember and grounds me still in Yoruba languages. And we also have Duolingo tries to do that too, but there's also an African language app too that you can learn any African language you want, and you can translate almost any African, but it's not as accurate as when you, especially if it is like a Kiti dialect you want to do. But for the generic one, like general Yoruba or general Hausa, you can actually get them still online. But the indigenous ones, you have to go back to the community.
I'm an Igbo language teacher. The government last 3 years made Igbo non-compulsory in the senior secondary. So it's only compulsory for junior secondary. Now, in the junior secondary, last year as well, I carried out an experiment. I decided to go and teach JS1 students, the new intakes. In my class, I had 134 students. I asked them to do a little project. The first assignment is to tell me your full name. Your full name means your native name, not your English name. Your native name, your village, then your hometown, and your state. That's 4 questions. Out of the 113, 134. So it was embarrassing situation. For me, why it's embarrassing is because for the first time, problem teaching what I don't know, because I don't know where they're coming from and I don't know their names. I really know their names. So I had a meeting. I told them, so they asked
what it is. And I told them I cannot teach what I don't know. So they asked me how. I said because I don't know your names, I don't know where you're coming from, so I cannot teach you. Just even the spelling, I cannot teach you. And now ask them what you want me to do. They now say I should call their parents. I said okay, no problem. So I wrote letters individually to 134 parents. I told them I want to form a WhatsApp group. I told them I want to form a WhatsApp group and I need their help. So they asked me what's the problem. I explained. They said that's very good. So I now told them, please, everybody write the name of your child, the native name of your child. I don't want the short form. I want the full meaning, the full name, their village, their hometown, and their state. That is going to be our first project. And I'm going to be needing your help. So they agreed. So every day, when I come into the class, I'll call who is the son of or the daughter of so and so should stand up. I said, okay, your mommy say your full name is Katsi Sochuku. I'm from Olo in Imo State. You see, that's how we started. That's how we started.
See, now they are even doing competition among themselves who will speak Igbo the most, which is very, very interesting and very noble for me. Thank you.